5 part A. Factorize 4ab plus 7a squared minus a. The combination of letters here makes this a little bit trickier, but if you follow the steps of factorizing like so, you'll be able to handle any type. First step of factorizing you got to look for is a highest common factor. Is there something that every single one of these terms can be divided by? The answer, of course, is yes. They can all be divided by a. And a only, so a is going to come out here as a highest common factor. What's going to go inside the brackets is each of these terms divided by a. So 4ab divided by a becomes 4b. A plus 7a squared divided by a becomes a plus 7a. And a minus a divided by a becomes a minus 1. What we're left with in the brackets here has no way of going into double brackets. The clue is the fact that you don't see any squares even. And of course, there's nothing more in common with them. We already took out what's in common, so there's nothing more to do. That is our final answer. Part B, solve the equation 4, subtract 8p equals 11. There's two main ways of doing this question. I'm going to show both of them. The first one is if we just treat it like we would a normal equation, which is get this letter p on its own. So how we do that, first of all, is we're going to subtract both sides by 4. This 4 minus 8p is basically the same as having a minus 8p plus 4. Therefore, in order to get rid of this 4, we've got to take away that negative. Actually has nothing to do with the 4. That negative is attached to the 8, which is multiplying p. So the negative actually belongs to the p here. So a common mistake people would make is they take away, they add 4 to both sides. But you need to subtract 4 here in order to cancel that out. If we take away 4 from both sides, you will still have this negative 8 stuck to your p. And on the other side, you're going to have a 7. And then two things we're going to divide by, or two parts, we're going to divide by not only the 8, but the minus 8. So in one go, we divide both sides by minus 8, which will give us p equals 7 over negative 8 is a way you could write that. You can also write that as just negative 7/8. As long as there's a single negative in your fraction, you're good to go. Another way of solving this would be sort of a segue in not having to deal with negative letters. There are more p's on the right hand side than there are compared to the left, because 0 is a number that is bigger or warmer or more positive than minus 8. So what I can actually do is my first step here is add 8p to both sides. If I do that, then the p's will become positive on the right hand side. I will be left with a 4 on the left, and I will have 11 plus 8p over here. And then in two steps here, I'm going to take away 11. That's going to become a minus 7 equals 8p. And then instead of dividing by negative 8 like I did over here, I just have to divide by 8 because the negative is already on the other side. Either way, we get the same answer. As long as you're clear with your workings, you'll be good to go. For the next part, let me just erase this bit. Expand and simplify. We have a double pair of brackets here, x plus 3 and x minus 6. As long as we're careful with everything in one bracket, it has to multiply everything in the other. So we have x times x for x squared. We're going to have an x times minus 6 for minus 6x. We're going to have a 3 times x for a positive 3x. And we're going to have a 3 times a negative 6 to give us a negative 18. The reason I've chose the colours the way I have is because of the fact that those x's in the middle can be simplified. They can be collected. It's also a clue in the question. We've expanded, we broke out the brackets, and now we need to simplify. That minus 6x plus 3x is going to give us a plus 3, no, not a plus 3, a minus 3x. And the x squared we can keep at the beginning, and the minus 18 we can keep at the end. And that is it, fully simplified. Part D, simplify y to the power of 12 divided by y to the power of 4. So this is the second law of indices, where if you have anything to a power and you're dividing by the same base to the power, then we subtract them. So we have m minus n like so. So we're going to have a power of 12 minus 4 here. So that ends up becoming y to the power of 8 as our final answer. Part E, simplify 3e all squared. There is the distributive law, which says that if you have two terms or two or more terms multiplied together, all raised to a power, that you can share that power separately. So You can effectively do the powers first before you multiply. So you've got this as an option, or you could just look at this as, well, if something's squared, it's it times itself. Either way, you are going to end up, if you take the distributive law, we end up with 3 squared times e squared. 3 squared becomes a 9, and the e squared is just e squared. And that's exactly the same answer as you would do it if you multiplied those together. 3 times 3 is 9, e times e is e squared, and they are stuck together. And that is our final answer. Done.